I don't know what we're gonna do about
Perfect.
that.
So we're live.
Huh?
We're live.
Oh, we're live. Oh, we're live. Hi, people. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 2025 International Day of Calm Summit. And won't you agree this world needs a bit of calming down? So I'm excited that you're here. Thank you so much for joining us and grateful for not only your presence, but if you have shared this with friends, family, coworkers, and your friends and family and coworkers are also watching. We have so much to talk about. 24 amazing experts that are going to share with you everything you need to know to live a calmer, richer, more intentional life and be the role model you want to be for other people. You know, we always talk about parents being role models to children, but when you think about it, we are actually role models for everybody, not just children, each other, the way you behave to somebody else, the way you react to something that you're unhappy with. And then our children see all of that. So they're not just learning from their parents, they're not just learning from their teachers, they're not just learning from other relatives and grandparents and aunts and uncles and neighbors. They're learning from you. Whether you are with a child or not with a child, if someone sees you on the street and the behavior that you are displaying, that child will learn from you. So it is very important that we start taking personal responsibility for the way we act, the way we react, and the way we respond to other people. So that's what this entire movement is about. This is about being able to raise a stronger, more confident, calm, productive, constructive, considerate, compassionate generation that will continue for generations to come. So think of all the adjectives you want a child to grow up to be. And if that child is yours, I hope very much that you are being that person that you want them to be. So thank you for coming. I'm Celia Kibler, and I'm the founder of the Day of Calm Foundation and the creator of the International Day of Calm. I'm also the founder of FunFit Family Fitness, co-founder with my sister Maddie, who you'll meet later. And I am also the founder of Pumped Up Parenting. And all of that umbrellas under the Day of Calm Foundation as we try to really end this epidemic, which I believe is an epidemic of anger and rage. And if you're not watching what's going on today, even in the States, it's an epidemic. If you're not being a part of the solution, then you are part of the problem. And our work is to really end this epidemic of anger and violence that is seriously affecting our children every day. You have to realize that the children of this world are the next generation. And if we're raising them in an angry, aggressive, raging, violent way, they are only learning that kind of behavior. And if they're doing the other opposite way, they're reacting by being the peacemaker and being the person that avoids all conflict, feels judged all the time, and second guesses themselves. So if that's you, you're either one way or another if you were yelled at or treated aggressively when you were growing up or lived in an abusive home. So I am also a mom of 5 kids. 2 I gave birth to, 3 are my bonus lovey children. And those 3 kids and those 5 kids, I should say, all range from 36 to 42. And I am the proud grandma of 9 children. So I've been raising kids for a long time. I've also been a preschool teacher for over 40 years, and I am an award-winning author, My book is Raising Happy Toddlers, How to Build Great Parenting Skills and Stop Yelling at Your Kids. Recently won the International Impact Book Award for Parenting and Mom's Choice Award. So there's lots that I'm going to bring you during my session, which kicks off first, and a lot that I will help with all the other speakers as they teach you moving forward. This is for you. This is for your friends. This is for your coworkers. This is for your family. This is for your kids. Your life will be better at the end of Saturday. So let's get started with my topic. The theme of this summit is the ripple effect. And why is it the ripple effect? Because I want everyone to realize, like I just briefly touched on, that with our personal responsibility, we can and will create generational change. The generational cycles of dysfunction and abuse continue because we decide they can continue. When I ask parents, and I've asked a lot of parents, why do they yell at their kids? There are two reasons that are mostly given. One is I ask over and over and over again, nicely, and they don't do it until I yell. We'll address that later. The other is I don't know any better. And what does that mean? That means that parent was raised in an aggressive way. They were yelled at. They might have been hit. They might have been beaten. That's what they know. And so they take that experience and they bring it into their family, their parenting, and their children. Same people on the streets that aren't parents. Their ability to jump quickly to rage is because they didn't learn emotional regulation. They don't know how to deal with things that aren't going their way or going right. It's very simple to break down that there are a lot of medical issues that come to reality, and a lot of substance abuse and physical abuse that comes to reality because those people, those adults, never learned from their childhood how to regulate their emotions, how they should be responding to emotions. Let me tell you, there's a lot of talk about big emotions, little emotions, good emotions, bad emotions. The reality is they're just emotions. We have them. Being mad and angry is not a bad emotion. It is a natural emotion that we all have. Being excited and happy isn't a good emotion. It is another emotion we all have. What goes under the category of good or not so good is the way we respond. Let me give you an example. Did you all watch the Academy Awards when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock? And I did a post about this recently. And everybody talks about the slap. Will Smith walked up, he was so angry, and slapped Chris Rock in the face. But what the truly important part of that scenario is that Chris Rock did not slap back. He realized that he had control over his emotions, his reactions, his actions, his responses, and it was up to him to either continue this or end it. And he chose to end it. I am sure that slap in his face did not feel very good. But he was like, you know what? I'm not slapping back. All conscious choices that you didn't see him make, but he made. I'm going to make light of this, and the show will go on. That is what I'm talking about. Just because somebody does something to you doesn't mean you do the same behavior back. That is what taking responsibility is for your own actions. If I ask you guys, and I think people that are with us can comment, if I ask you, and if you're at home and you're not on us with Zoom or you're on YouTube, if I ask you, who makes you yell? Most people will say, and you can write it in the comments, who makes you yell? They'll say, my kids, my husband, my wife, my coworker, my boss, they'll list an entourage of humans. The only one that makes you yell is you. Unless someone is holding a gun to your head, you are the only one making you yell. You are making a conscious decision to yell, scream, hit, whatever that response is. And if you can make a conscious decision to do that, you can make a conscious decision not to. I want you to think about that. And if you tend to be the type of person that aggressively reacts to a situation, you are the one that needs to learn to get control over that trigger, that emotion that's sending you off. Luckily, you're here. And there are a lot of wonderful experts here that are going to help you do exactly that. Find your calm, find your peace. If you don't like what somebody's doing to you, don't do it back. You didn't like it, so don't be that person. Be you. I always say, be you. Everyone else is taken. So be you. Be that person that you want to be. If you're a parent, be that person that you want to role model to your children. That's how we start a ripple effect. That's how we end generational cycles. By somebody saying, it stops with me. Whatever it is, it stops with me. And I hope through this summit, you understand that it is under your control. And the more you learn, the more you know, the more you master, control comes easily because it's a reaction. It becomes your regulation. It becomes your emotional intelligence. And wow, what would the world be like if everybody had a better regulation of their emotions, more emotional intelligence? That is even more important, EQ, the emotional quotient is more important than the intelligent quotient. Because you can be book smart, but totally fail in the way you handle everyday situations. There are a lot of CEOs of companies that do great in running a company and they come home to their family and their family's falling apart to disaster. Some of those things are what you're going to learn today. Some of those things are what you'll be able to get during this participation. So let's understand what this, whole cycle of dysfunction and abuse is. There's a lot of things that happen to us and a lot of feedback we get from people we know. You do something and your parent chimes in, like, why are you doing that? Or a grandparent chimes in. Or if you're a parent and you're not yelling or hitting your child, you may have a relative that's like, you need to smack that kid. You're not toughening that kid up. You're making them soft. You'll have people that not only judge you, but you yourself will judge you. You will talk harshly to you. You will say to you, well, you know what? This is how it's always been, and this is how it's always going to be. In my culture, this happens. We hit kids in our culture. We yell at kids in our culture. That doesn't make it right. We get angry and rage in our culture. Well, how is that working out for you? Think about it. This country, this world is full of angry, raging people. Now, I will always believe that the majority of us are pretty darn wonderful. But we have violence happening everywhere. This is Child Abuse Awareness Month, the month of April. Last month was Human Trafficking Awareness Month. These are problems that exist because people have serious mental issues. And they either want to control everything, or they want no part of everything, or they want to get angry, they want to rage. Things don't go their way, they don't know how to respond. And their excuse is, well, that's how we do it. Well, isn't it time to change? So when a grandparent or a parent judges what you're doing kindly and respectfully, because it's all about respect, talk to them about why you've chosen to do what you've chosen to do. What is missing in the world today is listening. Good listening. And I have a great listening game, which is actually a practice that you guys get if you want it and you donate $1 to our cause. $1. You get the listening game and you get the morning detox that I created so that you can start your morning on a positive note. So you get the listening game and the detox for just donating $1 and helping our cause create more calm and rebuild the school that we're trying to rebuild in Uganda. More about that later. But here's what's the problem is. Most humans listen, and I know you're all going to shake your heads at this. Most people listen, and while they're listening, they're planning their rebuttal. Yes or yes? Yes, right? We're like, okay, we're kind of listening, but what am I going to say back? And the problem is, if you're planning your rebuttal, you're not listening. You're missing half of what's going on. And this is especially important for your children. You want your kids to talk to you when they're teens. I've raised 5 teenagers. They've all talked to me. Why? I listen to them. You have to listen. The best listeners are the best communicators, hands down. Stop talking and start listening, actively listening. That means you listen with your eyes. You're not holding a phone in your hand. You're not putting there's not a phone on the table, because all that message sends is, if this phone rings or if it vibrates, I'm getting it, which means this phone is more important than you are. Put your screens down. Listen. If a friend is sitting next to you, don't be on a screen. Listen. If your child needs to talk to you, listen. And you're not just listening with your ears. You're listening with your eyes, like I said, and you're listening with your heart. People have emotion when they talk. I'm very passionate about my beliefs, and you can hear that passion when I talk. Well, when you're listening to someone else, they are also passionate about it. They are also people that have something to say and feel a certain way about it. And how do you help them feel calm and feel free to talk about it and not judged and not criticized? Is you let them talk. And maybe you hold their hand. Maybe you just sit next to them and listen. Maybe they don't need someone to fix it. They just need someone to hear them out. This world would be a much better place if we spent the time to listen to each other and hear the valid reasons we all have for thinking the way we think. We all have valid reasons. Whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them, you have valid reasons why you think the way you do, and I have valid reasons why I think the way I do. And you may not agree, but you may open your eyes to a different perspective. Listening opens doorways right and left. And all the prejudice, the hatred, why do we have that? Because people are not educated on whoever they're hating and they're raging about and they're complaining about. Religions that go back and forth, we're not learning about other religions. Racial conflict, we're not learning about other races. Cultural conflict, we're not learning about other cultures. Political conflict, we're not learning about other politics. Other sides. There's two sides and two perspectives to every coin. And if you believe some way with our internet, you can actually find all kinds of stuff that will align with what you think. But wouldn't it be interesting to sit down with someone of a different race, a different religion, a different belief, a different culture, and ask questions? Another important part of communication and calm communication. Ask questions. Get to know that person. I'm telling you, we all have very similar interests and goals. Your run-of-the-mill humans that roam this earth care about their family, care about their health, care about other people. Kindness is all over the place. The problem is the news shows 90% horrific things and 10% wonderful things. What if that was reversed? What if the news showed 90% wonderful things and 10% horrific things? What a different attitude people would have every day. Those people that watch the news every day, it's like poison. It is poison. Turn it off, please. Get your news somewhere else. Read a newspaper. Do they have newspapers? They still have some newspapers. Get it online. Get it coming into your email box. There are sources of news that pretty much give a fair view of life. But if you watch the TV news, it's all about drama. It's all about horrible things that are going to happen to you and your children. And it is all fear-based so that they make money. People love to see that stuff. So one thing I want to talk about as I move on from that topic is I want to go back to personal responsibility. And I want you to think about this. When things happen, are you quick to blame someone or make an excuse? Are you quick to say, oh, that was this guy's fault? Are you at work and they go, well, why did this happen? Well, I don't know. That was his fault. That was her fault. Do your kids, are they quick to step back and go, no, I didn't do it. I didn't do it, because they're afraid to get in trouble. But what's important is that we teach our kids to take personal responsibility. We do certain things and make choices all day long. Everything we do is a choice. Everything. You choose to get up. You choose to get dressed. You choose to go to the bathroom. You choose to eat breakfast. You choose to get in the car. You choose to walk. Everything in life is a choice. And the only one making that choice is you. So if something doesn't go right, who decided to do that? You. And the way we heal is by taking personal responsibility. You're going to learn a whole lot about healing in this summit. A whole lot. It's important to take personal responsibility so that you can heal, so that you can change the generational cycles of dysfunction and abuse and start the ripple effect of calm, of intention, of kindness, of love, of compassion. You are not creating soft children if you don't beat them. I have people talk about how, a dad said to me one time, you have to admit there's an appropriate time to hit a child. To which my response was directly, when is it appropriate to hit you? When is it appropriate for a wife to hit a husband to hit a wife, a teacher to hit a student, a doctor to hit a patient, a clergy to hit one of their members? It's never appropriate. It's never like, well, this would be a good time to smack this person. It's never appropriate. And the sooner we figure that out, the sooner we start bringing an end to anger and rage. The sooner we realize that hitting people and yelling and screaming at people are not normal. And they are disrespectful. It is our job to teach respect. Nothing about screaming in someone's face or yelling is respectful. And as we all know, a yelling match between a coworker, a spouse, a child, a friend resolves nothing and always makes things worse. Why do you think that is? Because you're not thinking rationally. You are not thinking about what you're saying or doing. You're just doing. You're just throwing a tantrum. We're going to have a wonderful speaker talk about helping you control your child's tantrums. Chris Lake, he's wonderful. And people think, oh, tantrums are just for children. Tantrums last all life long if you don't learn how to control them, if you don't learn how to react to you being angry or frustrated or disappointed. And if you are raging against another person, if you're destroying property, if you're screaming, throwing, hitting, go down the list, you are throwing a tantrum. A tantrum is an uncontrolled response to an emotion. You are out of control. You are not thinking clearly. You are not thinking of the possibility of what I should be doing if I don't do this. You are not thinking, well, is this good for me or not so good for me? Another great thing to teach your kids and think for yourself when you're making a choice. Want to help with willpower? Before you do anything that you think, I really shouldn't do this, think, is this good for me? Is this not so good for me? And then decide. And if it's not so good for you, don't do it. Same with your kids. Is this helpful or hurtful? When you're making a choice, teach that and do it yourself. You're the role model. But if you are raging and throwing a tantrum, you are out of control. Let me teach you something that will help you take a break from the elevated way your body is feeling, because we all feel something change when we get triggered, when our emotions get elevated, when our reaction feels like it might be edging on out of control. So I created an acronym called PEPA. So this is not Peppa Pig, but it makes it easy to remember. And it's PEPA, not PEPPA. The other P is for the pig. Throw that away. No pig. PEPA. Practice it. Remember it. Peppa, Peppa, Peppa. And teach your children, teach your friends, teach your family. It means pause, evaluate, plan, and act. Pause, evaluate, plan, and act. And it's strangely applicable to so many situations. If you're getting frustrated on a project you're working on, maybe think Peppa and go, you know what? I need to like take a step back because your brain needs the pause. And once you think Peppa, once you actually think that word, you have instantly paused your brain. The minute you think Peppa, you've paused your brain. So you're on the track of doing things right. If you're in a middle of a situation, maybe with your kids, or maybe your kids are fighting and you just walked in from work and you've had a hard day, Peppa, pause. Don't just go over to them, start yelling at them. You're not helping. Evaluate. So what's really going on here? Maybe my kids are just sick of being together, which is usually why they fight, because frankly, they're sick of being together. So maybe I should just say, hey, you know what, guys? Let's kind of take a step back. Let's go. You go sit over there and read some books, and you go in your room and do something. And let's just do some calming down, breathing, relaxing apart, not together. So that's your plan. That's the plan you think of. Now go in there and tell the kids. Act. Our brain needs breaks. You're working on something and you're like, who's ever read a book? Like, you know, my book. I'm sure this never happens when you read my book. But if it happens where you're like, oh my gosh, I've read this page 3,000 times. You know how it is when you read a book. This is a wonderful book, by the way. It's a manual. Yay. You know how they say kids don't come with a manual? They do now. Woo! Comes in Spanish and English. Selfless plug. Okay, so you read the same page over and over again, over and over again. Yes, yes. And you're like, oh my gosh, I've read that page 300 times. Then you're like, I got to walk away. And you walk away and you come back and you were looking for something on that page. And you open the book and there is what you were looking for in like neon lights. And you're like, whoa, that's because you reset your brain. Your brain needs reset throughout the day. You want to stay calm, you have to take breaks. You have to reset your brain. And so keep in mind that all of these things that you do and you master, you give your children permission to do. And I'm going to say that slow for you guys. It is extremely important to remember. Everything you do, good or not so good, you give your children permission to do. They don't just see you do and go, oh, I could do that. You might as well look at your child and say, you know what? I'm screaming, yelling, hitting. You have my permission to do that too. You're the example. If you're at work, if you're a boss at work and you're screaming and yelling at your employees and you're throwing a tantrum, you also give them permission to behave that same way. Or for the most part, they'll probably quit. Your kids can't quit. They're stuck with you. They want to be with you. They love you. They truly love you. And they want to be just like you. So all of the things that you do that are not so good, you give them permission to do. But the good part of that is all of the things that you do that are great, you also give them permission to do. So if you learn Peppa, you give them permission to also use that acronym and help them regulate their emotions. If you give everybody in your business, in your family, permission to walk away, and we're not going to take insult, we are just going to allow each other to say, you know what? I'm feeling a little tense. Let me take a break. Come back and talk about it. Don't take a break and then never talk about it. Come back and talk about it. But if somebody needs a break because they're escalating where they don't feel control anymore, let them go, because it's going to lead into a destructive conversation. It's not going to accomplish anything. So why waste the energy? Let's talk a little bit about the ripple effect and things you can do to change those generational cycles, okay? We talked a lot about intentional communication. That's all about listening, asking questions, not assuming. So for that, like a lot of people will be saying like, "Oh, how many times have you said to somebody or your spouse or your kid or your parents, well, they should know." That I hear it all the time from couples. I work with couples all the time. They should know. My husband should know. Why doesn't he know? Because he doesn't know. Because you didn't tell him. I get a little heated about this stuff. If you want something from your spouse or you want something from your child, speak up and be concise. Don't give general directions to a kid. Our human brains don't fully develop for 25 years. Eye opener, right? 25 years. If you're expecting your 5-year-old to treat you like, to respond to you, like an adult, you are going to be sadly mistaken because it's not just difficult for them, it's impossible. They have 20 more years of brain development. That's a lot of years. That's a lot of growing up. Look at your child. Look at your teenagers. Your teenager's 16. They have 9 more years of brain development. I mean, sometimes you get that right? But we're not going to talk about, get into all that because we don't have a lot of time. But I want your communication with your children to be calm, to be concise. Like instead of clean up this room, why don't you say, especially if they're a small child, honey, can you put those books on the shelf? Thank you. Can you put those cars in the bucket? Thank you. Honey, can you bring me that book? Why don't we read that one when we're done? Thank you. Appreciate things. And then say, look, you cleaned up your room. And after you do that a few times and you go step by step, they learn what clean up their room means. Because if you just say clean up your room, it will never be to your expectations and you'll get mad because they don't fully understand what your expectations are. But when you teach them step-by-step instructions, they now understand and they have learned this is what clean up your room means. You save yourself a lot of aggravation not talking in generalizations. So speak concisely and calmly, listen so that you understand where they're coming from and allow them their emotions and check your emotions. Okay, so a little bit about yelling, because if you know me, I'm all about stopping, or I should say helping 10 million parents stop yelling at their kids. Why? Because yelling is abusive. Yelling changes the way the brain thinks. When you are yelled at, when you are attacked, when something happens aggressive to you, we go into fight, flight, or freeze. Children do, you do. Fight, flight, or freeze. Think of those 2 words. The 3. I wasn't good at math. I obviously can't count 1, 2, 3. Freeze means you are just shocked and afraid. Your children will do that a lot. You'll be screaming and they're not moving because now they're afraid. They're afraid of what's coming next. Flight, they run for the hills. That was me as a child. This day, the International Day of Calm, is dedicated to my dad. I'll tell you a little bit about that, but we only have so much time. Flight, we run away. We don't deal with confrontation. And fight is what it says. They fight back. They argue with you. They scream with you. They might get aggressive depending on their ages, whatever it is. Those are how we respond to yelling, screaming, and aggression. It can stop us in our tracks. And it will affect those little voices that we all have in your child's head. Isn't it bizarre that we all naturally think we need to grow up and recover from our childhood? How is it we haven't figured out that we need to be proactive and create childhoods that people blossom from, that they don't have to recover from? That's a lot that we do today. That's a lot of the work I do and many of our speakers do with their clients. It's time to have parenting be a priority. Do you know there is a system for every single thing that we do? Everything. There's a system for putting on pants. You teach your child. Tying a shoe. Going potty. There's a system if you learn to be a doctor, if you learn to clean streets, if you learn to be a plumber, an electrician, an attorney. There's always a system. But isn't it strange that for the most important responsibility we have to this planet, raising another human, people do it by flying by the seat of their pants? They are insulted if you tell them they need help. Why is that? How is it going so far, flying by the seat of our pants? Not going so great. That anger and rage is all over the place because we're just bringing in those cycles and then we're making more of us. How about we say it ends with me? Put it in the comments. It ends with me. And then learn a better way, because I raised 5 children in a blended family through divorces and all the things that go good with that, without yelling and screaming or hitting any of my children. And they grew up and survived, and they can talk about it. And they are respectful, good, kind, compassionate human beings. They didn't grow up disrespectful. They didn't grow up weak. They grew up confident. They grew up with respect and knowing how to also treat someone else with respect because they learned how to be respectful. We can stop this if you are intentional about wanting to stop this. You don't have to do it on your own. We're all here to help. The Day of Calm Foundation supplies parenting services and worksheets and classes for free. So nobody has to do without. And guys, the biggest, hugest, most wonderful thing is coming and will be announced on Saturday on the International Day of Calm. You will have every resource right available to you so that when you need to know what to do in any given parenting situation or teaching situation, you'll have an answer right then and there. But we're going to surprise you on Saturday with what that is. Respect is taught, and yelling and hitting and aggression, there isn't a thing, and destroying property is not respectful. And it's just making you look like someone who's out of control, like not a productive member of society. And that's what you are showing the world. That's what you're role modeling to kids around the world. And that's why they don't feel safe. They can't walk into a school and feel safe. They can't walk down the street and feel safe because of all this chaos. We have to calm this world. We have to heal ourselves through action. Not ignore what's going on. Not say, oh, this isn't going to happen to me. We have to heal ourselves through taking these sometimes difficult steps of making this world a better place. Before I stop talking, which is always a challenge for me, I want to tell you about a man who was very impactful to the progress of humanity. This man and his 4 buddies decided that airplane seatbelts should go in automobiles. And they went through all the safety testing to get airplane seatbelts into automobiles. That seatbelt that you wrap around your waist when you get in a car is directly contributed to him. Millions and millions and millions of lives saved. He also worked on seaplanes to gather water to put out fires on land. He also designed, produced the fastest warship anywhere for the U.S. Navy. No ship exists that's faster than this ship. So that if there's an emergency, the Navy can get in this ship and go to another country in hours. He worked on the Apollo missions. The things that this man did for humanity goes on and on and on, and that's the short list. That man is my father. And although he passed on in 2020, and April 5th is the day he passed. My mom passed 2 years earlier. Why I'm telling you this and why I decided to make this my mission is because this man that did so much for humanity, so much to just help people, felt like he was garbage. Up until the day he died on April 5th at 92 years old, World War II veteran, his whole thought of himself was, I'm not good enough. I'm always doing something wrong. I'm always making mistakes. He grew up to hate himself. He was physically and mentally abused as a child. And when children are physically and mentally abused, they don't grow up to hate you. They grow up to hate themselves. I don't know if we have a video of my client. I don't even know if that's available right now, but we'll show it. If it is available, let me know. She's 80 years old. She created the Day of Calm quilt, which you will have an opportunity to get. It's full queen quilt. I can't even speak. It's beautiful. Physically and mentally abused as a child and 2 marriages. Hates herself. If you ask her, and I have a video of me saying, do you love this person? Do you love this? Do you love yourself? In an instant, no. I think I'm so ugly. She said to me the other day, I look in the mirror and I think how ugly you are at 80 years old. Guys, you are raising a generation of kids that hate themselves. Do you think a kid that goes in and shoots up a school thinks he's like wonderful? No. He hates himself and he's going to take it out on other kids. Kids that bully other kids, are they thinking great of themselves? No, they hate themselves. Where did they learn to bully? Probably from their parents who are bullying them. And if you're yelling and hitting kids, you are bullying your kids. I want you to really think about what you're teaching other people. Time to look in the mirror. I know it's not something we want to do, but look in the mirror. I think now we're going to hear from Anita.
Well, bad.
What are you
You
telling
said
yourself?
I'm useless.
Which you're not, but go ahead. Tell me what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Well, I've gotten to where I'm more trouble than I'm worth. How old people cause more trouble than they're actually worth. So I'm one of them.
So, other than burning this pot up, what was the last disaster you would say you caused?
I've never done anything like that before. I'm almost 80 years old. I never done anything like that before. Never.
So, does one mistake
Yes.
and let me finish. No, it doesn't.
Does that
The
constitute
answer is
feeling that way?
no. Does
Yeah.
one mistake ruin a whole wonderful life?
Yes.
No, it
Yes.
doesn't.
Yes.
Because how much have you've cooked meals for how long now? How long have you cooked the meals of the house?
Years.
Years. And what, other than the burning up of this pot, what is the last meal you burned, caught fire?
Never.
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 You've never even burnt a meal. That's better than me.
No. No. No, I never have. I always stay right there. I always stay right there in the vicinity. I usually don't leave the food. So
So that means that for your efficiency of cooking meals without burning the house down is pretty much 99.9%.
yeah.
Okay. Not quite 100 because you almost burned the house down this time, right? Okay.
Right.
So 99.9% of the time, you cook perfectly safely.
Yes.
And I think you still have a lot of would you say you still get concerned about what other people think of you?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, good Lord, yes. All the time. Every day. Every day.
And that comes from the way you were raised. That comes from
Yep.
all that abuse.
Yep. Being
Because you
beat up all
always
the
had
time.
to look out for what you were doing in case
Yep.
somebody thought it was like the end of the
Yep.
world and would hit you or
Right.
scream at
Yep.
you or whatever they did.
Yep. Or slap me.
Yeah.
Yep. Always.
When you got slapped as a child, hit as a child, slapped, hit as a wife, how did that make you feel?
Pretty rotten. Pretty rotten. But I always figured, you know what? I guess I deserved it. Sometimes my mouth got me in trouble and I deserved it. And I knew I was going to get it. And my mouth just had diarrhea and said it anyway. So
So if your husband or a brother or a parent or somebody said something that you didn't like, did they deserve to be smacked?
no, but if they said something to me that that I didn't like, I would just cower and go away.
So
I do.
why did they not deserve to be slapped, but you do?
Yeah. Because more than likely what they were saying was true. I
Okay,
probably
that's
was being
possible.
rotten.
But even if it wasn't true, do they deserve to be
No,
smacked?
no,
Does anybody deserve to be smacked?
no.
No. Your mother, you were beat by your mother and your father,
Yep.
even though your father adored, you were like his boy. Do you love your mother?
Yes.
Do you love your father?
That's questionable. I've thought about that over and over again. I can't say that I love him, but I respect him because because he is my father figure.
So you respect him in theory.
Yes. But loving him, that would be a stretch.
Do you love yourself?
No,
See how
not at
easily
all.
you said that?
Yep. Yeah.
So instead of being fearful of what you do wrong, think about what you can do that's right. What
But
are
you know
all
what?
the things you do that are right
But when I do one thing wrong, it supersedes everything.
in your head?
Yes.
Except that
Yes.
when Brandy did that, when Stacy did that, did you look at that as the worst thing in the world or just a mistake?
No, I just a mistake, but it
So
wasn't
why
me.
is it the worst thing in the world for you?
Yeah, because it's me.
Right.
Yeah.
So if it's
Yeah.
just a mistake for other people,
Yeah.
you have to remind yourself it's just a mistake. And what happens when we make a mistake? Do we
Yeah.
beat ourselves up or do we learn from it?
Both.
No, no.
First we beat ourselves up and
And then
then
we
then
learn
we
from it.
yeah, and then we learn from it.
Well, you can be disappointed that it happened,
Yes.
but then realize, okay, so it's never happened before. Very telling, right? Very telling. And that's what's going on in your child's head. And it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. And if you don't think it's hard to change the patterns for 80 years, it's very hard. It is a difficult reality that our actions are actions that impact our children for the rest of their lives. And simple thought, what do you want your child to be? Who do you want your child to be? And how are they going to learn that if you're not that person? You have to be that person. You have to be the one that will change. You have to decide that this ends with me, that we need to end this anger and rage. We need to end this abuse. This is not teaching anything but negativity and hatred. That wonderful woman who sewed the quilt for the Day of Calm and gives quilts out, full queen quilts, just makes them and gives them to people. And she gave us one for somebody to win. She feels like she's worthless. And it makes you cry. So I want you to think about that. And I also want to see if, before we move on to our next speaker, are there any, sorry, I was seeing if there was a message to me. Are there any questions that anybody has before I finish up my talk and we move on? Crew, are there any questions?
Not yet, Celia. But
Okay.
I'll really love to share the video that we made for Rescue a School. So if
Okay.
you're
All right. So we'll share that video in a second. Let me just say that our next speaker coming up is a wonderful human. I love her dearly. She's coming from across the pond in the UK. And I'm going to tell you about Allie McClure as soon as we come back from this video. Awkward silence. Shall I sing? We can't hear very well.
Sometimes they leak a lot, especially during rainy season. It is a rainy season, by the way, as per now. You can see. This is primary 4. I think here you can see our classes are attacked by termites, and anytime we expect them to collapse. You can see how termites attack them. Yeah, these are the classes where children study from.
This is my classroom, but it doesn't have walls.
When it rains, classes become wet, cold, and this makes chats damage.
My name is Mary Given. I live in a poor condition house. We fetch water from ponds. We do not have electricity at home. When I'm coming to school, I eat cassava and sometimes I spend the whole day without eating, and this causes poor performance in class.
I would like to be an engineer, yet I walk long distance and reach school late.
I would like to be a nurse, yet I don't have books to read.
My name is Ainaman Arnold. I would like to be a heart surgeon, yet I don't have enough books to read.
I would like to be a teacher, yet I walk a long distance and reach school late.
My name is Kasane Esther. I would like to be a doctor, yet I don't have enough school supplies.
My name is Asima Bashir. I would like to be a lawyer, yet I'm an orphan.
That's the school we're supporting. And everything you can give is going to go directly to that school to rebuild it for those kids. An amazing school. About 380 students. And as you can see, they're desperate need of buildings that are not going to fall down. Look in the chat. Oh, I'll look in the chat. Okay, so here's the donation gifts we have for you. For even $1, you get the morning detox and the listening game, which is really a listening practice. For $50, you get 3 months in my Tranquility Tribe. It gives you group coaching and master classes and support to help you be the parent you want to be. For $100, you get a free trip. I'm not kidding, guys. This is a free trip to Mexico, Dominican Republic, or Jamaica. 3 days, 2 nights. Gives you a little personal calm. You have to get yourself there. But it's an all-inclusive, and it's probably a value of about $1,000, and that's all ready. Wait, don't start yet. That's given to anyone who donates 100. You donate 150. Oh, you have look, a screen. Okay, put that up. 150, 1 year in the Tranquility Tribe. $500 for private calls with me. That value is a lot more than $500. And you get everything above that. Like, so the more you get all of the things, and then you get the next thing. And $1,000, the first one to give $1,000 gets Anita's quilt. And I will get that for you so I can show it after the next speaker. Thank you for putting that up. So donate now. Go to dayofcom.org and you'll see the donate button right there. Even $1 will get you started on a calmer, happier life and get these kids into a place where they can thrive. They don't have to not work because it's raining inside their school. They'll have playgrounds, they'll have dormitories. All that architectural design is all donated by Curtis Ginsburg, who are the leading eco architects out of New York. So please give anything you can afford. We are grateful for it all. Thank you. And I think we have something before we bring Allie up. Yes? Yes. Awkward silence. We can sing. We can hum. Are you guys feeling calm? Are we relaxing? Do we have coffee? Do we have water? These are my two favorite drinks, coffee and water. I'll introduce Mr. Coffee and Mr. Water. Okay. So, oh, here it is. Thank you, Anupam, the genius.
Welcome to the International Day of Calm Summit.
Welcome back, and thank you for that beautiful video. Our people that are making this awesome are Czar Kasigan and Czar, you have like a different married name, right? And Anupam Sharma, and just amazing stuff. So, Ali, before we start your session, I would like to talk about who you are, because there's a lot of greatness in this wonderful friend of mine. Ali McClure is an award-winning trainer, author, teacher, and special needs expert in the UK. She has over 20 years of experience bringing her unique and inspiring strategies and support to parents and educators. Her lifelong passion lies in her depth of understanding of children's learning and what lies behind their behavior. Creator of the internationally recognized Fingertips, Talking Together, 5-Finger Thinking tool and book, Ali hosts a monthly podcast and speaks globally about brilliant behavior, the power of play, and supporting self-regulation. Ali is probably best known for her timeless book, Making It Better for Boys. Her strategies are simply brilliant. They seem simple, but they enable everyone to shine. Her innovative teaching methods and resources have made a lasting impact on families worldwide. She feels privileged to be an active participant in global education networks whilst remaining grounded, continuing her hands-on work supporting children, schools, and families. I bring you Ali McClure. Hi, Ali.
Hi, Celia. My, what an introduction.
Well,
And
you're
I
a pretty
loved
wonderful
all the-
human.
Thank you. And I'm so glad that we met. It was about a year ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, a little before, because we met also socially. I mean, met online following each other.
Well, that was right. Celia and I met in a taxi cab in Vancouver when we were at the World Forum, and we were coming to the end of that. And in our taxi cab, which we happened to share, we discovered that we'd been fans of each other's work. And a year on, oh my goodness, the biggest
So much.
fan
Here
ever.
you are on the board of directors of the Day of Calm
It's
and
just wonderful.
speaking.
Thank
And
you. And for that lovely,
grateful
lovely
for you.
introduction. So I'm so thrilled to be able to follow your opening keynote for the Day of Calm Summit. And I picked up some things from that, which will really help as we go into my presentation. And I know that Anupam is very kindly going to share the slides for us. But what I will be asking is for somebody to join in with me. I may be asking a few questions as we go along. So one of the things that Celia said is what is missing from the world today is listening. And in order to listen, we need to make time for our children to talk and for us to talk and for us to listen together. So I'm introducing you to my hand. It is as simple as that. That is why the logo is a hand, and I love the sprout. It's a growth coming out of there. So Fingertips is about talking together. It's talking together, learning together, and growing together with your children. And the things that Celia was talking about were things that grown-ups will do, that will model to their children. And the fabulous thing, in fact, all of my strategies work for grown-ups as well as for children. But the fingertips talking together tool makes such a difference because it enables adults to be able to talk. In fact, I think that's on the next slide, Anna Pam. Thank you. Next slide, please. That's it. So the fingertips is the tools to talk about learning and the tools to learn through talking. Those of you who are in education will recognise that that's a description of what oracy is. And that's a big thing that is being encouraged in education and in families now. It took me a long time as I was developing this tool to actually put my finger on what it was, because it is so many different things. But actually 5-finger thinking sums it up. So let's find out a little more. Next slide, please. What it does for us today, when we're looking at the day of calm, it enables adults to see the best in their children. And I'm a parent. I have 3 young adult sons, various neurodiversities. Sometimes it's a struggle to see the best. Sometimes when things are tough, it is a struggle to see the best. But this tool helps you. Not only does it help you to see the best, but to bring out the best in the children. But importantly for me, it helps the children to see the best in themselves, so that when we're not there, they will still use this tool. And they do. And I see it. And it brings a smile to my face and humbles me every time I come across people using this simple tool in all sorts of aspects of their lives. So I'm now going to ask for one of our colleagues to answer a question for me. Who's there behind a screen that might be happy? Maybe if I put up the question first, you'll know what it is that you're answering. If not, I'll ask Celia. Next slide, please. Each finger is a gesture. This is the first gesture. Very specifically, it's a thumbs up. We know that as, that's great, that's good, what are you good at? But actually, I worked with that for a very long time. And if you refine that question to, what are you particularly proud of? It can open up all sorts of conversations. It can open up conversations between adults and children, and among children. If you're here and you've got tiny children and you think, well, what about them? It actually opens up conversations. You can reflect on that child who's nonverbal. Maybe they're autistic, maybe they developmentally are not able to speak. When I first discovered this, I couldn't believe how many ways there were. So I'm wondering, Wendy, are you there behind your camera? I wonder whether you would partake in this for me. Okay. I'm going to come back to Celia. Because Celia, I know lots about you professionally. But this is just day of calm aside, your family aside, thinking of the broader Celia. Can you tell us something that I might not know that you're particularly proud of?
Putting my family aside, because my children are what I'm most proud
And
of.
people do very often answer and tell me all about their children first, but I'm actually
Right.
asking Celia the person.
What am I particularly proud of? There are many things. I'm proud of what I have accomplished in my life, because as a child, I was actually thought I was stupid my whole life.
Oh my goodness.
And until recently, I realized I'm not so stupid. And so I'm very proud that I have accomplished the things I have accomplished. I never thought I would.
Is there anything that we may not guess that you've accomplished? Something a
Just
little
want to
bit
get
left
this out of
field.
me.
Pardon?
You just want to get this out of me,
I
right?
do.
Well, something that you may not guess that I've accomplished. Okay. So what you may not know is I have scoliosis. I wore a body brace for 5 years, my childhood from 8th grade to 12th grade. And a lot of my self-doubt and my shyness, believe it or not, was built into that brace. I mean, that brace went from my neck to my hips, wrapped fully around my body. And I spent the important teen years of my life in that brace. And so I feel very accomplished that I have learned one thing in life, and it may surprise you, that my feelings matter. And the reason I say that is because wearing this body brace for 5 years, my appointments were in the Children's Hospital. They were outpatient visits in the Children's Hospital in Baltimore. And the outpatient clinic was right next to the terminal ward. So walking by those windows in the terminal ward, or rolling by, because there are kids in wheelchairs that had cancer and were dying of all kinds of things. There was this one little boy, and he was in a wheelchair. He didn't have any legs, and he would just roll by back and forth, and just say, "Don't look at me. I'm not a freak. Don't look at me. I'm not a freak." That's all he would say. And then there was this other little girl who was on a gurney, and she had a rare skin disease, and she was going to be dead in a year. Her skin was just melting away. There was no cure. And this child would laugh. Oh my gosh, she had the best spirit. And you'd hear her laugh. She couldn't stand up. She couldn't walk. She couldn't do any of that. But she was always laughing. And I thought to myself, what right do I have to complain? I wear a brace. Yes, I wear it 22 out of 24 hours a day, but for 2 hours a day, I get to take it off. I have to sleep in it. I did not like it, was not my friend, but I had no right to complain about it because here were these other children going through so much worse than I was ever going through. And it did gain me the philosophy that whatever I'm going through, there's someone in the world having a harder situation of it. But what I also believed was, even if I felt upset about something or angry about something, I really didn't have a right to feel that. And I would say, as I grew, I realized I do have a right to my feelings. I don't have to always be this perfect child. I don't always have to be doing everything right. I can speak up. I can be upset about my brace. And I regret one thing in my life. And they said, now I'm going to cry again because like we're having therapy here. So my mother passed away of ALS. Terrible. Nobody wants this. And she had to wear, a BPAP, CPAP, I don't know what letter it was, on her face. And she used to not want to wear it. And I said to, and she would complain about it, but she would write and complain because she couldn't talk. And I said to my Mom, I had to wear that horrible brace for 5 years. You just have to wear a mask. Don't complain. And it was that moment when I thought, why can't she complain? She's going through ALS. She's lost her ability to speak, to eat. She has, if anybody has a right to complain, my mother, who was like the angel on this planet, had a right to complain. And it was then, really then, and that was 7 years ago, that I realized we do have a right to our feelings. No matter what the situation is, we do have a right to our feelings.
Oh, wow.
And I always believe that of everyone else, but not myself.
Gosh, that's very open and some really deep things there, which is...
Do I have to pay you for this therapy session?
Yeah, I'll bill you later.
Okay.
That's fine. It's okay. I'll donate the fee to the Day of Calm. That's great. What you've said is being able to speak out about your feelings and know that your feelings are valid. When I talk to parents and teachers who have been using this fingertips 5-finger thinking tool, the things that they say they're particularly proud of are little things that they've done that have helped them to work with their children. A family that I work closely with said finishing work on time. And when you hear that kind of answer, it's like, there's a bigger story there. What was stopping you from finishing work on time? Was it just a culture? And it's certainly something I can be guilty of. One of the mums who has just rebuilt a relationship with her child says playing on the trampoline, having the freedom to play on the trampoline, and the difference that's made to her and to her daughter has been absolutely huge. One of the dads that I work with, he is in Britain, but he works with the US Times. So he was struggling because he wasn't having as much time as he wanted to have with his daughter. So one of the things I suggested, actually it was an idea that I borrowed from someone else, going for a coffee with his daughter in the morning before school. And I was reflecting with them and saying, oh my goodness, how far your daughter has come. And they said, oh, well, you know, we've been doing this, we've been doing that. And we use fingertips to talk at the dinner table every night. And that's the first time those parents have realized that they're able to talk about what they are particularly proud of. When I spoke on this was it the very first World Forum Foundation where I spoke on it, and that was in Panama. I asked one of the delegates there, what are you particularly proud of? And it was our friend Rob Fox, Celia, and he spoke up and he said, I've become a local politician. And that's, oh my goodness, that opens up a whole new picture of what's important to this person. And I would want to do what Celia said is so important. Listen, ask questions. So it's a very simple question, but actually it's got depth. When we're working with children, sometimes they struggle a bit to know what particularly proud of means. I feel pride inside that I tried. So one of the things that I'm particularly proud of is my work makes others shine. If you draw a little sunshine on here, then the children hold it to this part and they say, what makes me shine is when I build my blocks. What makes me shine is when I make the picture look just like mummy. So it has all sorts of depths for one simple question. Now I'm going to introduce you to 3 of the questions today, so we've got a short time together. Let's move on to the next slide and see what we can see with the little girl there. What is your child particularly proud of? I wonder if any of the people here have a child or can think of a child that they've worked with. And regardless of this picture, what would you say your child might share with you that makes them shine or is particularly proud of?
Volunteer, people. We need a new volunteer. Come on, the pressure's on. Raise your hand. Anupam will see it and bring you up. Can anyone listening be brought up, Anupam?
Yeah. Well, there's a lovely comment from MT Johnson. So it would be great if MT Johnson. Oh, is Betty? Betty looks like she's going to join in.
Oh, good. Okay.
Oh, and Chris has got his hand up too. We're all here now. Chris, speak out for us.
Can we can't. You can take me away if you can see somebody else. Can we?
That's Chris.
Good morning, guys. Great to be here. I'll jump right into it. As per what my child is proud of, my daughter's 4.5 years old, and she's very creative. Just a few weeks ago, out of the blue, she told my wife at bedtime that she wants to make a dress. She wants to create dresses. And she's always been very interested in fashion, to our surprise, because we are not particularly clothes horses or fashion forward. We're But she's always just had an eye for it. And so we heard this. We said, sure. The next day, my wife sat down with her and they designed dresses. They drew dresses and colored them all in. And then my wife told her mom, who used to sew, and her mom's mom used to sew, and her mom immediately bought her a sewing machine. Fast forward to just 2 days ago, my daughter went to her first sewing class, and she made a drawstring back that she is exceptionally proud of, and she really is taking to this um, with a shine. You know, she's
Oh,
actually.
and I like that with a shine. That's lovely. And your example is absolutely perfect of how just beginning these conversations with our children, we can find the very thing that helps our child to shine, and we may have no idea that that was what it was.
Right.
One little boy who parents started having these conversations with, it turns out that he liked archaeology.
Mm.
He'd been to his granddad's for the weekend, and they said, "Oh, what were you particularly proud of at granddad's?" "Oh, I went digging in the soil and I found rocks and stones and bits of pottery." And it turns out that this granddad had already worked out, because maybe granddad had more time than mum and dad. Granddad had already worked out that this little boy liked that. So he had been in his own garden, broken up. He'd got some antique pottery, he'd broken it up. Those people who don't come from England are probably saying, "Oh no, don't do that. We've got tons of it over here." Broken it up, put it in the ground for his little grandson to find. And his grandson now loves digging, excavating, finding these things. And it's become a real passion for him. And when a child is struggling to have something that makes them shine inside, and we know we can talk about that, we've got Betty and Jacqueline to talk to now. Let's go for Betty first.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Betty, and I really enjoy being here with us. And I like the discussion so far, and I like your teaching so much. One thing that I could like to talk about that my children are proud of every day. I deal with children with disabilities in my
I
workplace.
remember, yes.
Yes, and every day I ask them, are you happy today? Are you happy to be in school? Can you tell me where you are happy? And most of the answers I get is that I am very happy because I can be able to do what the other children are doing. Yes, they're very proud that they can be able to complete their work at the same time with the other regular children. They're very
So we're talking inclusion there, Betty.
Inclusion, yes. That they're
Absolutely.
very proud that the teacher can praise them, that they're very proud that they have a sense of belonging in an inclusion setting. And that's what makes me my heart melts.
Oh, that's fabulous.
They're
Can I
proud.
challenge you, Betty?
Yes.
To go back and
Yes.
when that child says they're so happy to belong and to be part of it, dig deeper. Say, what is it in particular? What have you done today alongside your classmates that made you shine inside? And it might be that they sang a song. It might be that they threw a ball. It might be that they managed to be part of a group. And what it does is it empowers children in something we call metacognition in England. It may be a universal term, to start to understand their own learning. And so when we get children to be able to speak like this at school, then they go back and the parents start saying, what gave you pride inside today? What made you shine inside? And the child says, actually, the cross hatching on my picture. And the parents go, whoa, what on earth is cross hatching? Oh, can I show you? And then the parent gets to learn from the child. And it opens up this just fabulous conversation. I'm loving seeing Celia's face because we've talked about this a lot, but I haven't actually gone into depth. And I can sort of see the light bulbs going on in Celia. Oh, that's why she keeps banging on about it. That's why it makes such a difference. Let's go to Jacqueline. Thank you so much, Betty.
You're welcome.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Hello. Hi, Ali. Can you hear me?
I can. Where are you from, Jacqueline?
I'm currently in Canada, but
Oh, right.
I've lived in England
I
actually
can
quite some
hear.
time. Yeah. I'm originally from the Caribbean, but I lived in England for 16 years. So I've been a bit of a multicultural mom, I would say.
Whereabouts in the UK did you live, Jacqueline?
I used to live in, when I was at university, I lived in King's Cross, that area.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very, yeah, King's Cross, Russell Square area.
very nice.
And then I lived in Hounslow as well, which is West London.
Yes.
Are you from London, Ali?
My son lives in King's Cross. I live in Guildford, sorry, so you will
Ah,
probably know that.
yes, yeah, absolutely. Oh, wonderful. Oh, I'm so
Mhm.
delighted to be here. I actually met Celia just a few days ago, so very, very recently online through,
Oh, great.
yeah, through another friend of mine who's also parenting expert, Gabriel. And I'm really delighted to be here. I'm a mom of three boys like yourself, so I'm very
Uh-huh.
passionate about boys and how we nurture our boys.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm a parenting coach also. But what I wanted to share was what I think my sons, at least one of my sons, would say about what he's particularly proud of. I actually was having a conversation with him at bedtime because that's, as we know, it's one of the bedtimes to connect with our kids. And I asked my 6-year-old, I said to him, "So tell me some things that you've learned from mummy." And he said, "How to be kind." And I said, interesting. And I said, "Tell me more." And he said, "How to manage my emotions." And I thought, oh, wow, okay. And I gave him a big kiss. I said, "Tell me more. What else?" And he said, "How to treat others with kindness." And
Uh-huh.
I said, "Oh, wow. That's so cool. Tell me more." And he went on, and he probably gave me about 6 different things that he learned from he said that he learned from me,
Uh-huh.
all related to values and family values, because we have this thing in our house where we have our family values posted on our walls. So
Yeah.
we refer to them ever so often and remind ourselves of them and try to embody them and practice them in our daily lives and with each other. So I said, "Do you think that you're kind? Do you treat your friend with kindness? And are you better able to manage when you have those big reactions?" And all of his responses was yes, basically. And I
Oh,
thought to myself, oh, he must feel so proud of himself right now talking about this, because he's basically saying to me, "I'm proud, mummy, I'm showing kindness to others. I'm proud, mummy, because I'm learning to better manage my emotions." And I think that was and the light on his face, the big eyes
and
open.
that's the thing.
Yes, they light
That
up.
is the thing. And that's absolutely fabulous because we can see in our children when they're shining. And that's
Absolutely.
why I use the word shine as well.
Yeah,
Because if and thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you so much for that lovely example. I like
welcome.
your values and the conversations with your son.
Thank you.
That brings us back to this picture because this little girl in this picture is not able to use her words. So I wonder if she was a little person in our lives, if she was a little child we worked with, or a child in our family, from this situation here that we can see, what do you think it is that's making her shine inside? Wendy, you were popped up earlier on.
Hi, Ali, I'm here.
Hi, Wendy. I'm putting you on the spot, my friend. What do you think makes this little one in the picture shine inside?
That's fine. Okay, the conversation has been pretty interesting. It's interesting to hear perspective from different people in different locations. Um, you
That's
know,
fabulous.
what your child particularly do you're proud of, so I
Yeah.
come from a part of the world where it's pretty highly normal to yell. I'm actually very passionate about the day of calm because it's so when you don't yell, it's actually you are actually doing the wrong thing where I come
Yes,
from.
absolutely. So could I just ask you, it's very, very interesting, Wendy, but could I just ask you for the moment, if I could just press pause and ask you to take a little look at this little girl for me?
Yes,
and
please.
see if you can work out what makes her shine inside. What would you say?
I would say the calm. The calm that is around that picture says a lot. So I would say the calm.
Ah, she may be proud of the calm. I wonder, we can't actually, I can't see the slides at the moment. Anna Palm, could you pop them back
Yeah,
up
we
again?
lost the slides.
Could you pop the slides back up? It was a little girl in the outdoors and she had
And
a couple
Wendy,
of...
sorry, we'll bring you back up.
Wendy, do you want to carry on telling us a little more while we're waiting for the slides to come back up?
Yeah, so Wendy, well, let me since we're waiting, let me tell you who Wendy is. Because she's amazing. She's my dear friend, another dear friend. And the slide is back. Okay, so after your thing, I'll tell you about Wendy.
There we go. So this little girl, from my understanding, is very sensory, Dee. She has sensory stimulation from those leaves. So in a moment, she's going to throw them up in the air and they're going to float down and she's going to watch them. And that makes her shine inside. And that gives us an insight into what's going on for that little girl. Now, I'm coming back to her, was it Jacqueline? And if I could have the next slide, please, Anna Palm. Jacqueline was saying that, skip on from that one, would you? Thank you. Jacqueline was saying that she was asking her son, what is it that I've taught you that's helped you? But one thing, the next question I like to ask is the pointing finger. And we know it's rude to point. Okay, we're jumping around a little. I'll work with the finger here. A pointing finger is what helps you or who helps you. So maybe next time Jacqueline has a conversation with her son, she might say, what were you particularly proud of today? What made you shine inside? What helped you or who helped you? And it's fascinating to find out from our children what helped them today. And I have an example of a little boy who told me that his patience helped him today because he had his favourite instrument. This was a little 6-year-old boy. He had his favourite instrument. And we have several children in our school who have additional needs. And a little boy was joining us for the first time. And he came and he took that instrument from in front of this child. And I watched this little child. And there was to be no reasoning with this child. It wasn't a situation to actually cause any conflict. This little child took the instrument and played with it. And this other little boy was so generous and so kind. And he made a gesture to me to say, Mrs. McClure, it's okay. It's okay. You don't need to get it back for me. He can have it. So he told me that his generosity and his patience were what helped him that day. But moving on to the next slide, please, is the middle finger. And you'll be pleased to know that it's a horizontal finger. It's a lot to do with self-regulation. For me, self-regulation is the journey from self to others. And if you take your arm, I'm leaning back, it's the longest arm, it's the furthest away from yourself. And as Celia alluded to, we're not fully formed until we're about 25. We're not able to fully self-regulate until we're around 25. So there will always be things that are tricky. And this is the longest journey when I'm working with children. This is the longest journey, and you start off here. What's tricky and how do you tackle it? And having a conversation with a child, you don't dive into that one. That's the only one that you don't dive into. But you do one of the others first. What's helped you, or what were you particularly proud of? And then what was tricky and how did you tackle it? And very often our children will do the pepper thing that Celia said before they dive into this. They will pause and they will evaluate. I have an acronym similar to it. What's your third P for, Celia?
Third P is plan.
Plan. And then?
Act.
Act.
Pause, evaluate, plan,
when the children,
act.
absolutely. When the children are talking about this, you can see the cogs whirring. Oh my goodness, what was tricky and how did I tackle it? And if we're talking about encouraging parents to have conversations with their children, if they're prepared to open up and say, in my day-to-day, what was tricky for me was I had to get a report in. And it was really tricky to get it in on time because the computer didn't work. And then, if the family are used to this conversation, they'll begin to say, oh, well, how did you tackle that? Oh, well, actually, what I did was I was able to go and use my colleague's computer. Or I was able to do some other work and then come back and do that work later. What example, and Celia talked about role models a lot. What example does that set to our children when we start opening up and talking about what's tricky for us? And it comes back to the family I was describing earlier on. They're now doing that with their children. And what I noticed with them, firstly, I noticed a big change in their daughter because the daughter is the one I work with. But I noticed a big change in that family. Those parents were so much calmer, so much more self-assured, and I think were reflecting on things for themselves. Now that is a pebble in the pond that begins the ripple effect, and that is what this fingertips does. It is 5-finger thinking. So there are 2 others, but I'm just going to start you off with those 3 today. And if you share with one family that sitting down at dinner time, sitting over a meal, on a car journey, talk about what helped you today or who helped you today. What were you particularly proud of? Or, as the second question, what was tricky and how did you tackle it? I'm just going to put those 3 up for you to have a look at so you can see those 3 different gestures. Thank you, Anupam. So that's your starter kit for those 3 there. My mission today is to ask you to help me to reach 1 million families, because you can see in the corner of each of those pictures that there is an international impact initiative. And when I first spoke on this in Panama, I was approached by somebody from the World Forum who said, you do realise that the work you're doing there has a huge impact on children and families, and it's really important that this is shared. So I do have a little call to action for you at the end for how you can share this with other people. But let's move on to the next slide. If this is working in a family, and I'm using a family as an example, but it could be in a workplace, it can be a coaching tool, it could be in teacher training, it could be within a staff room,